Well, we get another build and we're going to be playing some catch up today. What's up, Rebel Scum? We have some more of the Fanhome Darth Vader build for you today. We're going to be playing some catch up, so we're going to move from 1 step to 3 steps today. So we're going to be doing 4, 5, and 6 just to get a little bit further on that helmet. We're going to be starting on the chest box finally, so making some really solid progress on this Darth Vader build. Again, we have these great little magazines to take us through the way. This one features Darth Maul. There's also Orson Krennic in here. So again, it's allies or characters that have interacted with the main focus throughout the series. This time it's going to be shifting a little bit. So we do have one of these larger boxes where we start our chest box. You can see that in there in the neck brace part. But then we start shifting to these smaller packets that still have just as many pieces, but they're a little bit easier to ship. So when you move past this stage, you start getting many of these. So we got about 8 of these now. So there's a lot more phases. It starts getting a lot faster after you get through your core build with your larger pieces. So that's a little shift in dynamic, but there's still just as many parts. There's still electronic parts in there. So the packaging shifts a little bit when you start moving toward the more advanced stages. There's a lot of parts in there. The build's going to get a little bit more intricate, but we're still moving along today, and we'll check out this awesome head sculpt here, as I think we're going to be getting a lot more today. We're probably going to close around the back of it. We're going to be able to mount the dome on top, so we're getting some progress. So why don't you guys come on in and let's get to this build. All right, so we have an assortment of parts here. Of course, we have that neck brace. It's going to be really important. We have the connectors, some metal parts for design, the little silver switches that are on his chest box, the chest box with the Orbish writing on there. So everything we need to get started here. Now, we're going to start with the neck brace, and we're going to put one of these pieces on. Now, again, you can't get this wrong, because obviously if I put it on this side, it's going to be upside down. It's not going to fit. There's only one way to put these on. They always match up, so I really appreciate that. And that's sort of the whole charm of these kits, is there's only one way to get everything on here. So we're going to put the connector on. Again, only one way to put this on here. It can't go on the other way, because then it'll be this way. It won't connect to the neck. And then we sit one of these little metal pieces on it here. And then we have our screw. Now, instead of using the screwdriver, now we're using the hex key. So we just kind of line this up. Not magnetic, but we should be able to put it in nonetheless here like this with the hex key, and that should thread in. So I felt some bite, and I can tighten that up a little bit right here. Yeah, so we got some bite in there, and that's nice and tight now. Yep, I can tighten that a little bit more in just a second. The other part here are these little metal tusk things. I know it's hard to see them. And these studs just kind of go in between here with some pressure on the part. They're just kind of fit in these holes right here. I have my giant mitts, so it's kind of hard for me to do this without getting a more precise tool involved, but essentially they will go in these holes with a little pressure, and then you'll be able to have that nice, neat look. Now, I would recommend putting them on before putting this part on, just to give you a little bit more reach around there to be able to get them in. So I'm going to put it on this side, and then we'll mount this one here, and then we'll move on to our next step. Okay, well, we got this all done. You can see we got the parts on there. It took a while to get these in because our hands are so big and they're very tiny, but you can see this starting to come together here with the little attachments on the side. So looking sharp there. And then we have our chest box. So we aren't going to have any more screws for this part. We're basically just going to be putting in these little connectors into these slots. So we get the little switches right there, right here, and this one should be going right here. And that is essentially going to be it. This is just pressure fitted. Now you always have the option of putting glue on there if you want a little bit extra secure, but you want something like a glass glue so it doesn't leave a residue, because any super glue will leave a white residue around it and will ruin that nice aesthetic you got. So that is it. I mean, that is it for part 4. You have your neck brace here with all those metal parts on there, the little studs, and then you have the start of your chest box. So this is why we're doing 4, 5, and 6. So let's move on. We're going to take this tool, we're going to keep it because it might come back in another step, but let's get on to part 5. All right, so what we did here is we finished with the brace. We put the bottom 2 on each of these sides. Over here, we got the rocker switches on the front of the chest box and put the screw in on the back. And then we added the magnet and the holder into the top of the helmet. So we know that this dome will now snap on magnetically. The last thing in this set are the vents. So we're finishing all the way back to phase one, where we started with the vents on this side here. And then we have the last couple vents. These only go on one way. So you just follow the instructions to get each one of those in, and then they should snap into place nicely. So now we have a completed helmet with all the vents there. We still have other components to put on it. So why don't we move on to phase 5, or phase 6 rather, and see what's left. All right, well, part 6, it looks like we have the components here to finish off the chest box, including the coin slot, the covers, and the other lights on the chest panel, and then another holder here for the magnet for the top of the helmet. So this should be getting us toward the end of the chest box assembly and the end of the helmet assembly. For the most part, there's still a little bit of detail we have to put on the lenses, but I think the major pieces will be done by this point. So first we need to put in the blue um, light, or I guess square, on the chest box. So make sure you're pushing that all the way through, because that should be protruding out on the other side like such. Then we have the red goes on the bottom here, and again there's only really one way to do this. The alignment for it only allows you to place it in one place essentially. So make sure you're pushing that all the way in, and you should be getting that looking sharp there. We'll make some adjustments if we need to. And then you're pushing in the coin slots essentially. I don't think there's any difference between the three of these. I don't see any difference, so I think you should be able to push them in here. All three of them. 1, 2, 3. And then we see this starting to take shape. And then after that, you'll be pushing in these little components here, like such. So then it will start to look like this on the outside. So pretty nice. Starting to get that chest box into position, looking how we want it to look. And that is essentially, that's it. That's it for the chest box. So that's looking pretty good. We're tightening up these components a little bit. And then what's next here is taking this part for the internal connection, putting the magnet in here, and then taking this here. I think we need to line up the holes again. There's only one way to do this. And then we're going to be putting some screws in to here to hold it in place. And then we're going to be connecting it to the dome here, the top of the mask here, so we can make the whole thing connect. We'll check that out in just a second. All right, here we have it. We attached the top part. That finally finishes out the top part of this. We got all our vents on. We're missing just a little bit more of detail, so in the lenses, of course, so we'll be getting that in future steps. So at this point, we're able to, you get that nice snap as this connects into here, and then we will be at some point attaching the neck brace onto the back here with some screws. So you'll be rounding that out there. We don't want to catch our wire in there. And that will all connect this way. And then, of course, the big moment, we have the dome that we finished that will align on here with a nice magnetic snap once we get it into position. Of course, it's resting on the red here, so it doesn't go on perfect. And then we have our chest box that is taking shape at this point. So we're really starting to get a nice look at what this figure is going to look like when we're all done. Starting to take shape. We get a lot great going on here. We finished a lot of the helmet, put the more vents on, we put the top on finally, and we got this neck brace that is going to look awesome when we finally attach that. I'm sure we got more going on that we're not putting that on in this phase. There's probably more to build on the back of this. There's more to build on the helmet. You can see from all the different holes that are still there, but cool that we finally got the helmet on there. It's looking really awesome. We don't have the lenses in from part 2, but I mean, this is really nice at this point. This head is pretty awesome. I love that magnetic locking system. Boop, it just attaches right there, and it's pretty firm. I mean, it's a little jiggle in there, but it's pretty solid because of that magnetic locking system. So do love that. So that is our helmet almost complete at this point, and we're starting on the body with the chest box today. There's a lot more to build out here. It's pretty cool. I looked ahead. There's leather straps that go to hold it on, just like in the costume. There's going to be more detail, including machined rods and everything that we're going to put on here. And of course, there's going to be a light up sequence. So there's going to be room for lights in here, and we'll see how they fit all the other components in as well. So a lot more to come with the chest box. We got the whole body to build. We got the armor, the legs, we got everything. So keep tuning back for more episodes. We'll be doing a couple phases at a time in order to move this along so you can see a little bit more of this build as they give you a lot more parts in subsequent sections. But it's looking pretty awesome at this point. Getting really excited. Finally finishing the head. The head was just, it's so cool. It was fun to build. And like I said, it's got all that detail in it. You got that, it separates here at the jaw, and you can see all the voice modulator in there and all that great detail we did with real wire mesh and real metal components. So it looks awesome. It's just going to display awesome. It's going to be one of those things like you just open up and show people, or you just have on display there, or just for yourself. It just looks really cool. And then to have all that just functionality of the magnetic locking helmet is so cool. So again, loving this as this is turning out. In subsequent steps, it's really coming along now. We're 6 parts in. I can't remember how many were on this. I feel like it was like 40 something or 50 something stages. So we got a lot to go, but we are making some progress, and it is looking pretty sharp. So that is all for this time. As always, like, subscribe, and follow for more Star Wars news, reviews, and more. And until next time, stay vigilant, you rebel scum.